Fuck yeah, with these attorneys! Spirit of justice! I will make no promises about keeping my anger in check this time, because clearly I'm just going to fail at that at every turn. But I really have to wonder how this case turns out, because what I don't get is they've set this up as this really cool thing where, as a continuation of the whole, Phoenix thinks Apollo's ready to handle the office thing, and he's ready to handle himself and have that individuality and that, what's the word I'm looking for? The independence. And as a continuation of the whole what is faith without doubt thing from the previous game where Apollo, as a character trait, has the integrity to call someone out on who he cares for when he feels that they're in the wrong or could be. And this it feels like it would be a good follow-up to that, except if we're saying that Phoenix is being coerced, which it does seem to be the implication from what politicians said, then that kind of falls flat, right? Not entirely flat, but it doesn't have the same weight it would carry if Phoenix genuinely believed in what he was doing and Apollo had to go against him, you know? And of course, it wouldn't carry any weight at all if it turned out to be an imposter, but at this point, it seems more likely that he's being coerced by Inga. Well, because politicians seem to, he was all like, remember our little chat? So it's like, he's coercing him somehow, and if we think that Inga is the one backing him, then it means Inga is indirectly kind of coercing Phoenix, or maybe was directly coercing him back in Khura'In, and that's why he came over here. So I wonder how this is going to actually play into the whole arc that these two games have been building with Apollo and Phoenix, and to a lesser degree Athena. But she's kind of had her other growth in other areas in that time. But also, even if he is being coerced, I wonder how they're going to explain away him just openly insulting Apollo for having a phobia and, actively rolling his eyes at this kid who's having a panic attack. Phobia, which is, by the way, considered a disorder by the DSM, I'm pretty sure. How Capcom? How will you reconcile Phoenix Wright, this sweet, good-natured man, openly just ripping the shit out of Apollo for a disorder in a court of law? And to be fair, Trucy and Athena were also, really, really just being pricks to him about it. But, they're teenagers, so, I guess they sort of get a pass there. Phoenix, you think, is old enough to know better. But yeah, Phoenix Wright couldn't give a shit about people with anxiety disorders is not the plot point I thought we were going to get from this case, but never mind. Phoenix about to argue that somehow this thing with the Holy Mother in it is not the Founder's Orb, so I just can't wait to see how he comes up with that notion. He's gonna say that this is Amy Faye, and the only way we're gonna be able to get to disprove that is by channeling her and asking her, maybe. Except I suppose we don't know the Holy Mother's real name. Oh, or no, that was part of, Phoenix has that. And because of the way evidence works in this universe, we don't. But Maya might still remember if she were to bust in. Anyway, I don't believe they have truly proven that the relic is indeed the Founder's Orb. Objection! Mr. Wright, I don't think even you could bluff your way out of this one. What possible argument could you have to claim that this isn't the Founder's Orb? About that, Oh, of course. You can't possibly have hit on something. The defense's assertion is incomplete, and this is why. Their claim that this relic is the Founder's Orb is based on a legend, and that legend claims that the Founder will return when the riddle is solved at last. Right? That's what happened. The Founder was revealed for all to see. But Mr. Justice, what about the rest of the legend? Huh? According to the legend, once the Founder returned, she would bestow spiritual power onto the person who solved the riddle. You're kidding, right? Well, Mr. Justice, do you feel great spiritual power coursing through your veins? No. But receiving spiritual powers and stuff, it's all just mystic mumbo-jumbo, right? Maybe so, but you're the one basing your claim on said legend. So, your proposal is that the Crystal of Amy Faye also happens to reveal the Holy Mother when you set it on fire? What's wrong with you, man? And what we saw here does not fully fulfill it, does it? No, but... Consequently, you cannot rightfully claim that this is the Founder's Orb. What's gotten into him? Why is Mr. Wright doing this? It would appear that Mr. Wright has lost a few of his marbles. That couldn't be further from the truth, Your Honor. In any case, I believe this is a good time for a recess. Both sides will have 20 minutes to prepare. I ask that all arguments be ready by then. Well, we had one 10 minutes ago. Oh, and Mr. Wright, you do well to wash up and find your missing marbles by then, too. Anyway, May 16th, 17th in fact, District Court, defendant lobby number 3.
Mr. Wright is sure acting funny. I mean, he's famous for going out on a limb, but that last assertion was just plain crazy. It's either a bluff or a Hail Mary. Either way, it doesn't make much sense.
Maybe there's something we're missing here? Although he seemed perfectly normal when we spoke earlier. I wouldn't say perfectly normal. Why is my camera out of... Sorry, it's because I slid out of my camera view somehow.
Paul, I have a bad feeling about this. I'm gonna go check up on him.
Is that something you're allowed to do? Okay, bye!
What's going on with you, Mr. Wright? Hey, Private Justice! Oh, Sarge. I forgot to mention something. On the night of Papa's murder, a strange thing happened.
Huh? But why are you only telling me about it now? I forgot! Apollo! Jesus H. Christ! Listen to the characters when they speak to you! I've regained my composure.
Well, I didn't say anything before because I thought Papa's death was an accident. But now that we know otherwise, I figured it might be important.
There's still more to this case?
When I left my room and lost consciousness, I passed out right here.
It's right above the coffee bar.
Mm-hmm. When I came to, someone was pushing my wheelchair.
What?
I was so scared I beat a hasty retreat as fast as my wheels could take me.
Do you know who it was?
No, it was pitch black. Plus, I fled to my room so fast, I didn't even have a chance to turn on the lights.
Maybe it was your father.
No, he would have said something to me. Besides, I'd have known if it was him.
So then it could have been your father's real killer.
My thoughts exactly.
But you didn't report this to the police?
It didn't even occur to me.
It's okay. You were obviously still upset, so don't beat yourself up over it.
Apollo, this could be really important information. I think the act of pushing Sarge's wheelchair could be part of some bigger scheme. It's hard to see why else the killer would have done such a thing.
What I want to know is which direction was she being pushed? Right here, so it almost seems like they were trying to, well, right above the coffee bar, it almost seemed like they were trying to imply that she wouldn't have been able to see things with the statue here. So someone was trying to push her over here so that to make it more viable that she could have witnessed the killing or something? Or the fire? I don't know. Certainly does bear noting.
It's hard to see why else the killer would have done such a thing.
I guess I should take her statement down as evidence. Who knows when we'll be allowed to use it or when we'll be punished for using it, but... Yes, let's take the statement down as evidence. Army statement, she fled to her room when she realized someone had moved her while she'd been unconscious on the second floor. Oh, sorry, you woke up in front of the coffee bar, but you don't think that was where you passed out, because of course, why would it be? Why would you have gone over there and then seen it and passed out? So rather, it was the opposite. It seemed like someone moved it so that your testimony would be bunk because you would have been behind the robot. Although, you would have had to come out from your room to get there anyway, so I'm actually not sure why they did that. Hopefully we will see.
Oh, welcome back, Athena.
Oh no. That's not a good sign.
Huh? What's with the long face? How'd it go with Mr. Wright? What should I... Athena? Sorry. Zoned out there for a sec. The recess is almost over, so let's go!
What was that all about? Did Phoenix ask her to sabotage Apollo or something? May 17th, District Court. Sorry, May 17th, District... I don't know the voice there. Courtroom number 6. Unless Ingo was, like, in the building and threatened her too or something. Nah, that wouldn't be. Athena would have picked him up and thrown him across the room if that happened. All right, court is once again back in session. Now, Mr. Wright, about that last objection you raised, we, the plaintiffs, still believe that the defense has yet to sufficiently prove its case. They claim that, according to legend, the Founder's Orb would bestow spiritual power, yet the relic in question has failed to do so. Therefore, it has failed its own test. I see.
He's sticking with that ridiculous argument?
Like, it makes a little sense, but if PAW was enough for us to say that Atishon-Wimperson wrote the email, because, you know, everyone pushed their initials and their birthday in their email, then surely the fact that we set it on fire and the Holy Mother was revealed should be enough to prove this is the Founder's Orb. Or at least, you know, not prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt, but beyond reasonable doubt. Furthermore, even if it is the Founder's Orb, it can't be awarded to the Defiant Dragons. After all, they were the ones who killed Dr. Buff. Yeah, but in that case, it's armies, right? And she can just give it to them anyway.
Objection!
Objection!
What are you talking about? That was already proven to be false. There are no grounds for asserting that the Divine Dragons murdered the Doctor.
Oh, but I'm afraid there are, Mr. Justice. Your Honor, I would like to present new testimony to this court. Testimony that will show that That's a Rebel did in fact kill Dr. Buff, even.
What?
Very well, you may call your witness. On a side note, I will just say that everything past the ridiculousness of last episode has been very cool. The solve with the army giving Apollo permission to burn the orb and everything, and the reveal that the Holy Mother's in there and everything. It's all starting to kick off in a cool way. In spite of all my angry outbursts.
Guess Mr. Wright found another new angle. What new testimony could there be this late in the game?
One wonders. Politician-Wimperson it'll be, because there's no one there now, and his little animation includes him walking up on the thing.
Fellow citizens, it is I, Politician, the once and future representative of the people! Geez, not him again.
My client divulged new information to me during the recess. He remembered something he saw, you see. Something crucial to this case.
Very convenient.
This witness testimony. That's his crime.
It was around 11 at night and I was out on a mobile meet and greet around the village. That's when I saw Dr. Buff being murdered from outside his study window.
I could have sworn he said it was 10 p.m. last time. 11 p.m. is the very tail end of the estimated time of death. Oh, by the way, we actually have this in evidence now. So yeah, she's right about the coffee bar. It seems to me like the only reason you would ever put Sarge there was so that the robot's in the way and you'd be like, oh, she couldn't have seen it or something, right? Like, because we are assuming she came out here, saw the fire, and passed out here. What's the advantage? The only advantage I can see of moving her here rather than here. Maybe there's some other fire around here that the killer is going to be like, well, she must have passed out from that. Like there's an obvious candle around here or something. If they figured out that she passed out because of the fire also. Not a clue. Sorry, and what this part just says, the night of the incident, Army fainted in the hallway above the coffee bar after witnessing the Doctor burning the treasure. When she came to, someone was pushing a wheelchair. Frightened, she quickly fled to her room. Oh, no, they're saying she did faint above the coffee bar, or are they just saying she fainted in the hallway above the coffee bar? Because the whole hallway is above the coffee bar. But they're saying she fainted right here? Why would she have had to go that far? Anyway. Well, no, I shouldn't anyway. Oh, well, so because she had to have passed out here, because well, why would she have gone here, turned 90 degrees, gone up here, then turned 90 degrees again, and then been like, oh, hey, a fire, and passed out? That's ridiculous. So obviously she passed out here. She said she passed out the second she came out here. Yeah, before the recess, I mean, last episode. So I assume what she's saying is the next thing she remembers is waking up above the coffee bar, and so she suspects she's been pushed there, but probably passed out here. Again, they're phrasing it so weirdly. She fainted in the hallway above the coffee bar. I mean, the hallway above the coffee bar. It doesn't say in the hallway, comma, above the coffee bar. It says in the hallway above the coffee bar. Hallway above the coffee bar is the noun phrase here. So that's the case. She fainted somewhere in the hallway, is what they're saying. That's when I saw Dr. Buff being murdered from outside his study window. Mr. Rebel snuck up from behind and struck him on the head. His weapon of choice, a suitcase. A big, strong man like him could easily swing a heavy suitcase into someone's head.
You saw the murder as it happened? And you're just telling us now because... I saved the best for last. It's a tactic known to all the political greats.
The murder weapon was a complete mystery, but my client's eyewitness account has finally brought it into the light.
According to the autopsy report, Dr. Buff was struck in the head by the corner of some object. I suppose that could very well be the corner of the suitcase.
Objection! But eyewitness testimony isn't the same as hard evidence.
Oh, I wouldn't worry about that if I were you.
What's that supposed to mean?
We have physical evidence too. A luminol test revealed. The Doctor's blood on Mr. Rebel's suitcase.
Really? But how does that prove Mr. Rebel used it as a weapon? Objection!
You should know the answer to that, Mr. Justice. Since you know as well as I that the suitcase is covered in his fingerprints.
Ah! I forgot we dusted it right in front of Emma.
I didn't. It took a really long time. Let's get something about that sticks in the memory.
The turnabout terror strikes again.
This is quite convincing testimony and evidence. Nevertheless, you may proceed with your cross-examination, Mr. Justice.
So there are a few things weird here.
Cross-examination. That's his crime.
upbeat testimony, though. That's a good sign. Around 11 at night. Now, you could say that's within 10 minutes, I would say is around 11, so that isn't necessarily to contradict this. I'd like some more some more information, but... Now, the obvious weirdnesses about this are as follows. Number one, why would Dats kill a man with his own suitcase and then leave it behind? Are we sure Dats could lift something like that above his head forcibly enough to strike someone, since it's really freaking stupid heavy? I mean, he said earlier that he was able to haul it around, but it's got wheels, right? So we don't know that he's actually able to fully lift it above his head. And it seems unlikely, if I'm honest. But they're saying a big, strong man like him could easily swing a heavy suitcase. So let's just, Athena, what are you thinking?
Talk about new testimony. He's totally changed his story.
If he'd really seen the murder taking place, you'd think he'd have said so from the start.
Maybe he had some reason to hide what he really saw.
If so, that might be our only opening. Right? But I think I better dig onto everything here. We do not have the health to justify making wild guesses off the bat here. It was around 11 at night, and so I was out on a mobile meet and greet around the village.
Hold it!
You were on a so-called mobile meet and greet at 11 at night? Mobile meaning you were in your thing with a bunch of staff?
That's right, it's the perfect time because everyone is at home. You should have seen how the villagers' eyes teared up when they heard what I had to say.
The tears of frustration, no doubt. You weren't riding around in your palanquin?
That's right. Some village idiot reported me to the police. I've been banned from using it after dark.
I wonder what with all the noise he makes. So what exactly did you see then?
That's when I saw Dr. Buff being murdered from outside a study window.
Hold it! Sounds like you witnessed something rather shocking.
Indeed. I didn't even believe it at first. I mean, a vicious murder in Khura'In.
There haven't been many murders there, I take it?
Well, you know, except for the 6 or so in the previous games. If I'm elected, I promise you that such a terrible tragedy will never happen again. A vote for me is a vote to banish murder forever from our beloved Khura'In village.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, please tell the court what you saw at the scene of the crime.
Mr. Rebel snuck up from behind and struck him on the head.
Hold it! He snuck up from behind. So you're saying the doctor never even realized Mr. Rebel was there?
That's right, he was utterly absorbed in a book.
I see. What did you see Mr. Rebel do next?
He climbed to the bookshelf ladder and dumped a bunch of books down onto the body. I believe he was trying to make it look like an accident. But that idiot didn't realize I could see everything from outside the window.
One of those statements doesn't feel right.
Your Honor, I believe the witness made an important statement just now about how
the crime was clearly visible. The doctor was reading a book. Dats is an idiot. I guess that he was reading a book? Now, my health isn't showing up here, but they've blatantly lied to us before about whether that's a thing in his very case, so... I guess we're saying, oh yeah, the doctor was reading a book because he doesn't have his glasses. Right. That's what it is. Sorry, that took me a little longer than probably I should have. That was embarrassing. Sorry, yeah, he didn't have his glasses. Because they weren't found on the body, they were found on the desk. The doctor was reading a book at the time of the murder? That's vital testimony.
Very well. Sorry, I have something in my throat. If the court would give me a moment. Very well, that witness will please add that statement to his testimony.
Because the glasses were found on the desk, that's an easy one. He was standing in front of the bookshelves, absorbed in a book.
Objection!
The doctor was standing in front of the bookshelves, absorbed in a book, you say? I'm sorry, but it seems your testimony is completely unreliable.
Oh, not completely, but at least this is a lie. That's quite a bold statement. Well, let's hear you back it up. I challenge you to prove that I am anything but 100% reliable.
Okay, it would be my pleasure. Lately, it seems the doctor's eyes had gotten so bad he needed reading glasses. However, his reading glasses were over on his desk.
So you see, there's no way he could have been reading in front of the bookshelves.
I'm sorry, Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, but I'm going to have to ask you to explain this discrepancy to the voting public. And the court, if you could be so kind.
You what? I'll explain it, you lowly cur. I simply made a mistake, you see. The doctor was actually sitting at his desk when Mr. Rebel hit him over the head.
Then the doctor would have been facing him. Surely he would have seen him and tried to run.
Dr. Buff was nodding off. I could tell because his eyes were closed and he wasn't moving.
Sounds more like what you would do.
And how do you explain the fact that he was struck in the back of the head? Isn't that something that should be impossible from the front of the desk? Oh, about that? He bowed his head when he nodded off. That was when he was clobbered.
So that's what you saw. Well, Mr. Justice, that sounds like a perfectly reasonable explanation to me.
You have a problem with the proposal the doctor was struck while nodding off?
I suppose we're gonna say there's blood on this book. I mean, I have like several problems with it, because there's blood and coffee on this book. He was just back from hiding an incredibly super secret relic, and he thought there were killers after him. And according to Sarge's testimony, he went in the building twice, the second time to kill him. So, if Atishon is on board with that, a self-styled sergeant. That's awesome. I mean, I've got a problem with it. I've got several problems with it. I'm just trying to think through. For saying he was killed at his desk, which faces outward, which is why Apollo said you had to have struck him from the front. Atishon is now saying he saw Dax through the window. Archie was sleeping at his desk, head down. Dax comes up and twats him on the head while he's got his head down. And then carries him over here and throws a bunch of books down onto him. Yeah, well, I guess the problem then is... Well... I would say the problem then is, why is there a psychology book there? Wait, did he say that he thinks he was reading the psychology book at his... He doesn't actually say he was reading the psychology book over here, so... The wording of a big problem makes it feel like if I'm choosing this, I should be able to see one glaring inconsistency. Something about how he couldn't have been sleeping at this time. Or him sleeping over at the desk makes one of these things impossible. It doesn't strictly make this psychology book impossible. Unless they want me to say if he was drinking coffee, he wouldn't have fallen asleep, but that's dumb. Because it's not impossible to fall asleep after drinking coffee, it's just unlikely. Envisioning it from Plaintiff's perspective here, if he had the psychology book at his desk... Oh, well... Oh, okay, so I guess what we're getting at is, if he had the psychology... If the blood got onto the If, indeed, blood had got onto a psychology book while he was nodding off at his desk, and then Dats allegedly brings him and the psychology book over here and goes, oh wait, one book looks really out of place, I should throw a bunch of them to make it look like he somehow slipped and fell, then he would have noticed the book missing from here, and wouldn't have gone for the archaeology books, I guess is maybe what they're getting at. But Dats didn't necessarily spend enough time to know that they were all organized, right? And, you know, if you had just killed someone, you might not necessarily be cognizant enough to notice this gap. So that might be... Let me look for something better before I commit to this. I mean, there's also the problem that there's no reason Dats would kill him while he was asleep. What for? It still doesn't help you find the orb. Screw it. I've got a big problem with that, alright. I guess the health went away. There is a problem! Very big problem! The witness statement doesn't hold up under the slightest bit of scrutiny.
Is that so? Then will you please show this court what evidence you have to justify this?
I was afraid of that.
Gladly, Your Honor! This shows the problem with the witness's claim that he saw the doctor nodding off.
I don't have that. My best guess is the photo. There's something in the photograph, but maybe they really genuinely do want me to say the coffee, but that seems stupid. We don't actually know how much he drank. Just because he had a cup of coffee that he spilled somewhere doesn't mean he drank any. But wait, so what I'm disproving is that the fact that it says this shows the problem with the witness's claim that he saw the doctor nodding off. Okay, I think I made the right choice on the previous screen, because it was showing me one of those two options I was choosing could have made me take damage, so I assume that means that if I had said there was no problem, I would have taken damage, and the fact that I didn't take damage in this one probably, I'm probably fine, but I don't know, they've been changing the rules on that lately. The problem with, but now the specific question they're asking me is, why couldn't he have been asleep? And I don't know that. My best guess would be coffee. Going through everything. Attorney's badge, no. The Founder's Orb, it's pretty flimsy to say he would have been too excited to fall asleep after just making a huge discovery. I think that doesn't make sense. Photo of Paula's father doesn't seem to bear any relevance. The different stanzas, nor the photograph, I don't see how any of that pertains. This thing, there's the coffee stain that seems... because they keep mentioning a coffee stain and then showing a coffee bar, it's like, what is the one relation coffee could have to a case? It keeps people awake. Right? Basically. That, or if someone had an allergy, that would be pertinent. But we don't know if anyone having an allergy or anything like that. So the one thing that I can see this coffee being for in this whole case is either, well, it's that it could also be to look like dried blood, because dried blood turns sort of darkish brown. Only where that's not in question. They've just said we tested that it's coffee. So
Why would there be coffee? Again, it's a guess. It's not evidence. It's like, well, we found coffee, so maybe that was it. But that is how a lot of the solutions in this case have been so far, and I suppose I can choose it. This is what gets me anxious, is like, to me that's the same caliber of guess as, well, the kid's got a drone, maybe she had it out at the time. Which I'll note she didn't, by the way. So I was right about that from the start, annoyingly. I don't see how any of the other stuff does it. I'm gonna guess the coffee. This shows the glaring problem with the witness's statement. See? The witness has passed out from the overwhelming power of my evidence. No, Mr. Justice, your lackadaisical attempt to refute and put my client to sleep, that's all.
I feel a yawn coming on myself. Oh, perhaps giving you this penalty will wake me up.
Yeah, surely there are better ways to stay awake, Your Honor. Paul, think about the relative positions of the witness and the doctor again. Right, that's where we'll find the contradiction. Are they going to say that the bookcase was too tall to be seen over? Because if he was sleeping on the desk and his head was bowed, it would be here. Right? I'm not crazy. Right? Unless they're saying he fell asleep like this. But surely if you're sleeping on a desk, you're not sitting there on your desk and going, and then if your head's bowed forward, how could you do that sitting up? You're surely like this on the desk, right? So the head's here. But they said the relative positions, and the only evidence that it mentions the relative positions is this thing. That's ridiculous. I mean, come on. Seriously? If that was what they wanted, why didn't they put the bookshelf here? Hang on, I must be missing something.
See that you avoid these snooze-inducing answers in your future.
I don't get it. Like, sure, so the chair is here in the diagram, right? I get that. The killer could have moved that. Sorry, did he say he was nodding off in his chair? Was actually sitting at his desk when Mr. Rebel hit him over the head. What could sitting at his desk mean other than he was sitting pulled into his desk with his head down on his desk?
Take that!
A diagram of the study.
Mr. Atishon-Wimperson allegedly viewed the murder from here. And the doctor was allegedly nodding off here. No! The chair could have been, he said, at his desk! Oh my god, this case!
You're not still mad, are you?
Yep, he's still mad.
How could you possibly sleep in a chair with your head forward? While leaning back? Because if you were leaning forward, you would have fallen out of the chair! I will now demonstrate for the court! Oh no, I fell and woke up! Do you know the kind of ridiculous core strength it would take to fall asleep forward in a chair and not fall off? What are you talking about? And who the hell would describe that as asleep at his desk? Am I asleep at my desk over here? I don't think so. I'm like 6 feet away. Why? Why? Anyway. But from his vent, no, I need a minute. But as a storied professional who is very good at YouTube, I'm just going to carry on. But from his vantage point, the bookcase would have blocked the witness's line of sight.
Well, yes, I believe you're right.
But that is... Objection! The fact remains my client knew that the suitcase was the murder weapon. So he definitely has first-hand knowledge of the crime scene. I'm afraid I have to agree with you there, Mr. Wright. But then we have to ask ourselves, from what vantage point did he see the murder? What are you insinuating, Mr. Justice? From what vantage point could Mr. Atishon-Wimperson have seen the dozing doctor? Once we determine that, I believe we'll finally see the truth behind this incident. We're proposing that he was the killer. The witness saw the murder from right here! That's the only other thing we could really guess, I imagine. I feel like a little more if I die here, but... where else? I mean, we don't have any evidence that it was him up on the, who pushing Army on the, up top. The only other person we know it was anywhere was someone who killed him while he was dozing here, if that's what the plaintiff is asserting.
Take that! You've got to be kidding.
But that's it! It is indeed. But everything only makes sense if the witness was there in the study.
Inside the study? But that's the scene of the crime!
I know. Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, the man who claims to be a witness to the murder, was most certainly in that very room.
Apollo, are you suggesting...
Mr. Atishon-Wimperson.
Weren't you the one who actually swung that suitcase?
Objection! What you're proposing is ludicrous. My client is a small, thin man, whereas Mr. Rebel has the musculature to pull it off. He has a point. Well, we're still rather assuming a lot about the suitcase being the weapon itself. Blood splashed onto the book. Blood could have just as easily splashed onto the suitcase if it was nearby at the time. And the weapon could have been something else. Gave up trying to lift that thing after one go.
Nah, that's right. He's the only one who could have lifted such a heavy object. Now do you understand? The Rebel Dancer Rebel is the Doctor's killer. As long as the suitcase is the murder weapon, the suspicion falls entirely on Dats. You ought to poke a hole in Mr. Wright's argument somehow, Apollo.
I will. And with his own technique, no less. If Mr. Atishon-Wimperson couldn't swing the suitcase around, we'll just have to consider another way he could have used it as a murder weapon. Instead, I'm going to turn this case on its head, Mr. Wright, just like you taught me. You talk big, Mr. Justice, but do you have what it takes?
Well, this should be interesting.
I mean, you were the one who told me I had what it takes like a case ago. It's not even a question. I mean, I might not, but Apollo certainly does. Mr. Atishon-Wimperson's testimony has been filled with one inaccuracy after another. First, he stated that Dr. Buff was in front of the bookshelves. Now he claims that the doctor was sitting at his desk. So where was the victim really when he was killed? Also, where was his killer? And how was the murder weapon really used?
So the important thing here is the position of the victim and the killer relative to each other. Killer, did I say? Killer relative to each other.
Yes, Your Honor. If they were positioned in a certain way, it would be possible to use the suitcase as a weapon without lifting a finger.
You can't mean...
I would ask the court to recall the study's layout. We're gonna say he dropped it onto him? Or that he made it so that Archie fell backwards onto it? Just to frame Dats, I guess? It's quite distinctive, as you can see. Now, if Dr. Buff were sitting in a certain spot and his killer was at a certain other spot, the suitcase would become a weapon anyone could use.
Very well, Mr. Justice. Where was Dr. Buff's killer at the time of the crime?
I assume what we're getting at is that, because the distinctive layout they mentioned is the weirdness of the upper hall, right? So, presumably they're saying well, that doesn't really make sense, because if it was too heavy to swing, well, no, I guess you could maybe lift it up. I assume what's being said is that it was tipped over the edge. And so, in reality, Dr. Buff was sitting at the coffee bar at the time, in which case maybe that's why Army ended up here, is because the killer was trying to frame her. A weapon anyone could use means that gravity was the one doing the pulling on the thing, so I think it has to be up here, right? I kind of want to overthink this because I've only got one health, but then at the same time it's like I don't understand what else that could mean, right? Killer was up top, I'm pretty sure.
Take that!
There? Oh, that's... This should wrap things up nice and pretty for you, Mr. Wright. I would ask the court to recall the study's layout. But this time, instead of thinking in 2 dimensions, let's think in 3. Only then can we clearly see the killer's method at work. Right, you could slide it through the railing. I was like, how he still would have had to lift it, but I guess the bars might allow you to slide it through the thing there. The killer didn't have to swing the suitcase. If he used gravity to his advantage, that is. That's right. It was the plaintiff, one Paul Atishon-Wimperson, who used the suitcase. He pushed it from the 2nd floor. And sent it hurling down onto Dr. Buff, who was sitting at the coffee bar. The psychology book had been at the coffee bar, no doubt. The doctor must have set it down there after he'd finished reading it, or the like. Why would the glasses be on the desk then? Nevertheless, blood got on it, which is why the killer thought to hide it in that mountain of books. Objection! That's quite an entertaining theory you have there, Mr. Justice. But there's no evidence that the murder took place at the coffee bar. I'm not so sure about that, Mr. Wright. I'd say that evidence of the murder occurring at the coffee bar
Yeah, I mean, there's coffee on the book. The evidence does exist, and I'm going to show you.
You are? Oh, it's even gonna you tell me it's in this photograph. Okay, well that makes it a lot easier. I didn't have to pick the photograph.
This right here is proof that the murder took place at the coffee bar. Take that! This brown stain was determined to be coffee. What's more, it was still a bit damp when we saw it yesterday morning. Ugh. One look at this book speaks volumes, I'm afraid, Mr. Wright.
That was an exceedingly good one-liner. Because it's like volumes of a book.
It tells us the doctor was having a cup of coffee at the coffee bar. That's when the suitcase came hurtling down, striking him on the head.
So it wasn't the spiral staircase that was weird, but I knew the second floor was part of it, considering they kept talking about it, and it is such a strange layout to have.
Causing both his blood and his coffee to spatter onto it. Well, Mr. Atishon-Wimperson? What motive could I have possibly had to kill Dr. Buff? And there it is, that final excuse cornered killers are so fond of. Well, the doctor never returned your crystal to you, did he? Instead, he hid it in the cave ruins. Telling him that the Defiant Dragons were a dangerous bunch was a huge blunder. All it did was make him hide the orb. Your lie came back to bite you in the end. Even worse, the doctor saw the news report, so he knew the relic was the Founder's orb. Being the conscientious researcher he was, he knew he had to return it to its rightful place. And that meant keeping it out of your hands. You were so angry that he refused to return the relic to you? That you killed him with your own hands! Isn't that right, Mr. Atishon-Wimperson? That is, hold it! Apollo! Don't! Please, don't accuse my client of murder! Huh? What do you mean, don't accuse him? Why would you even say that, Mr. Wright? What I meant was, he's a promising politician with a bright future ahead of him. It's in our nation's best interests to avoid burdening him with the taint of scandal. Say what?
She need more scotch tape on it. Gonna need more than scotch tape by the end of this case, my friend.
Right. Better do something to change the current courtroom climate, or I'll be charged with murder. And you know what will happen to her if that happens. What's he talking about? Oh, well, I can ponder that later. For now,
So they're coercing him with Maya somehow, we presume.
Mr. Wright, you can't possibly believe that Mr. Rebel is the killer. Are you really going to send an innocent man to prison? I thought you were better than that. Well, Mr. Wright, answer me! Mr. Wright? What in the world's going on here? If you won't say anything, then... Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, the defense hereby accuses you of... Hold it! Apollo, wait! Not you too, Athena. It's just, I wasn't sure whether I should say anything, but... During that last recess when I went to check on Mr. Wright, I overheard something I shouldn't have.
I trust Maya's unharmed.
I can't really say, but just remember, if I'm arrested or fail to obtain the treasure, there will be consequences. Consequences of the worst kind, if you catch my drift. Relax, all you have to do is ensure I get my hands on that relic. I must deliver it to my benefactor at all costs.
What do they want that relic for anyway?
It's something to do with an old legend. My patron seeks the great power said to be granted to whoever solves the secret.
Yeah, but we solved the secret, so he doesn't get it anymore.
Maya? As in Maya Fey? Yes, the boss's legendary former assistant. Miss Fey's being held hostage? So it seems. Why didn't you tell me as soon as you heard this? Sorry, it's just Mr. Wright spotted me before I could slip away, and maybe promised not to tell you. He said it would make things more difficult if you found out. As if they weren't already hard enough! So that's why Mr. Wright was acting so strange. I mean, it doesn't
justify the whole, like if you're gonna say he was acting out of, like, uncharacteristically fuckwitish just because he was under duress, like,
Maya was held hostage in the second game and he didn't go making fun of disorders and shit. Like, that's just fucking stupid. That holds less with the vision of the character that I understand as it is. It's more is what I meant to say, which resounds in my soul in a somewhat disappointing way. I retract saying it's fucking stupid. That's maybe a bit strong. Like, Apollo saved his life. Can you imagine if in the second game when Maya was being held hostage because he was under a stressful time, like, you know, a seriously stressful time, he just suddenly started ripping the shit out of Mia for being a failure to her clan? You know what I mean? Like, that's just so bizarre. Like, this is Mia Fey, the woman who saved her. Like, these are people you care about. I understand Phoenix being coerced in this situation into defending a bad client. That I buy, because he wouldn't let Maya die at any costs. But all the other weird, like, what it seemed to me was like they were trying to play for, ooh, doesn't it seem like Phoenix is a bad guy now? And it's like, of course he's fucking not. I've known him for 5 games. He's not gonna just suddenly turn to the dark side or whatever. He might make a few missteps, but it's just such a weird thing to make him so openly hostile and antagonistic. If what they were trying to do was make it seem like he was under duress. And like, I guessed he was being coerced before we even got to trial, because why else would he do this? So it's like, I don't understand how his shitty behavior helps the mystery or improves my understanding of any character, or like, all it just does is piss me off. Sorry, I'm ranting now. I realize that. I just didn't care for that the way that was written at all. My apologies. So that's why Mr. Wright was acting so strange. I had no idea. This must have been excruciating for him. Thank Justice. There's got to be something you can do. I said that so slowly. There's got to be something you can do.
Mr. Justice, about that last statement of yours, I believe you were in the middle of accusing the plaintiff of murdering Dr. Buff. Would you care to continue?
I'm sorry, Apollo. I'm really sorry.
What's gotten into you two?
If I accuse that slime bag, I put Miss Faye's life in jeopardy. It seems you've finally caught on. I'm far too important to be accused of murder. After all, our nation's future rests squarely on my shoulders. Either I give up or... Once I present the crystal to my patron, my victory is assured. Then one day I'll become president, and then king. I'll have every politician at my command. Now retract your accusation. I can't kowtow to him, but the defense would like to retract the previous accusation. Was that Dirk?
Objection! Apollo,
Dirk!
I don't know what's going on here, but a lawyer should never look the way you do right now, with defeat and resignation written all over your face. A dragon never yields.
There it is.
Even when wounded, a dragon bites down hard and never lets go till its dying breath. It glares, it roars, and it latches its jaws firmly onto its prey till the bitter end. That's what lawyers do to get to the truth.
Dirk, a dragon never yields. He's right. It's all over if I give up now. If Mr. Wright's hands are tied, it's up to me to do what must be done. He saved my neck so many times. Now, it's my turn to save his. Dirk, thanks for that wake-up call.
Now that's the face of a lawyer you've got there, son.
Where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm going to find the way to save Miss Faye and see that justice is served. Going into his head, okay, interesting. I don't see how it could pertain to this case exactly, but that scumbag is holding Miss Faye hostage to ensure he gets the orb for his patron, and it seems said patron believes in the orb's legend. Thing is, the founder did appear when the orb was exposed to fire, just as the legend said, except it's supposed to be bestowed on whomever solved it, which should mean that you have spiritual power now, Apollo, and not, and it wouldn't work for him anymore. So he has no longer any reason to hold Miss Faye. I guess is what we're getting at, maybe? If the legend is true, then we've already solved the riddle, right? Well, no, because there's part of it whited out, but we solved the riddle of the... Well, you ostensibly don't have any spiritual power. Well, maybe that's what they're getting at, is I'm supposed to say, yes, we have, and it's going to lead into, I've got the spiritual power. Somehow. Yeah, we have, I'd say so. Yes, we've definitely solved the riddle. And yet, we still don't understand the part about bestowing power is talking about. I need to rethink this. Never mind, we didn't solve it. All right, that one was a crapshoot. There was no way to know if we'd solved it, because we don't know if the power has been bestowed yet. We've not solved the riddle yet. The legend says the founder will bestow great spiritual power when she returns, but if that's true, that means we haven't solved the whole riddle yet. Because we definitely don't have that. Question mark? But how can that be? Are we missing something? Wait, maybe the part about the founder returning should be taken literally. But how would it be possible for a dead person to return to the world of living? Oh, was I not supposed to have figured out that the whole point of the statue is that it lets you channel her because of the face? It's the one thing they've said about the Holy Mother the entire game, and several times is that it doesn't show her face. Oh, I know! There is a way for the dead to return. Spirit channeling! Of course, you'd have to know what the founder looks like first. But the orb has revealed her face to us, so what if it's a sign that we should channel her? But that's still the riddle has already been solved, right? Anyway, given the facts, in order to resolve the riddle and receive the founder's power, I need a spirit medium.
A medium is needed to obtain the power. But I thought the power was channeling. It could let anyone channel. Okay, never mind. I'm wrong about that. I've just got that wrong.
The ability of a medium to channel spirits is the final key to unlocking the orb's secret. That means Mr. Atishon-Wimperson's patron will need one too. And once that slimy politician realizes that, he won't be able to lay a finger on Miss Faye. She's not Mrs. yet. Hopefully, if everything turns out alright, everything's gonna be okay, Mr. Wright. Because Mr. Politician-Wimperson can't afford to harm a hair on Miss Faye's head. Why are we saying that when Queen Khura'In can channel? Just because we don't think she'd be open to it? Huh? Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, it seems you've chosen the wrong person to take hostage. What do you mean? Your patron seeks to solve the orb's riddle, and thereby receive great spiritual power. However, only Maya Faye can truly give them what they really want. I mean, that's just blatantly not true. Queen Khura'In can channel, Pearl Faye can channel. Rafa's not there yet, but she's practicing. What do we mean by this? What did he mean by this? She can? What do you mean, only Maya Faye? Think about what the return of the founder really means. We should have considered it more literally. After all, the orb was made in the kingdom of Khura'In, the birthplace of spirit mediums. I think I see now. You need to know what the deceased looks like in order to channel them. But in Khura'Inism, depicting the face of the founder is taboo. However, her true face was hidden in the orb. So maybe the orb is telling us to try channeling the founder. Exactly! Through a spirit medium, the founder can quite literally return. And if the legend is true, the founder just might bestow spiritual power on someone when she does. It's like when Pearl's imbued by Magatama with spiritual power. If a human could be imbued with such power in a similar manner...
It is said that the founder possesses immense spiritual power. Such a great feat would not necessarily be beyond her. Wait a second! Then the legend is true?
Do you understand now, Mr. Atishon-Wimperson? You are holding hostage the final key to unlocking the orb's secret. And if anything were to happen to her, the riddle would remain unsolved forever! Ah!
I don't understand what's happening. She said they're uncommon now, Pearl did, but not completely gone. Also, further, there was an interesting clue they gave us earlier when Mr. Politician said, back in those days, spirit mediums were a rarity or something, which is completely at odds with what Pearl told us, that they used to be much more plentiful. I guess they could have still been a rarity.
There's always Pearl Faye. I could simply ask her to help. If she wants money, I have plenty to offer.
She's not the kind of person to be tempted by material gain. Yeah, but he's holding Maya Faye hostage. How is this even... Why would he hold one person hostage and then be like, I'll just try and bribe this one? What do you mean?
She's not the kind of person to be tempted by material gain. And she certainly wouldn't help you if anything were to happen to her cousin. Or maybe you'd like to go ask the Queen of Khura'In to channel the founder for you.
He could, but he'd probably get executed for requesting such a thing. But it's Inga orchestrating it, right? And he has like a super assassin at his behest that he could use to threaten the Queen. Like, maybe she could say no too, but we don't know that.
It's over. Now confess! You killed Dr. Buff, didn't you? Was it supposed to end this way?
Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, are you admitting to committing the crime?
You're my lawyer, right? Do something!
It's true that I'm your lawyer, and as such, it's my job to defend you. However, defending my client isn't the only duty a lawyer has. There's something else that's equally as important. That is finding the truth.
What?
Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, you have sought to twist the truth into the dirtiest of ways. I was complicit in your hostage-taking, but in a way I was being held hostage too. Even so, there's still hope for me to make things right. And I owe it all to you, Apollo.
Mr. Wright.
I can't allow a murderer to walk away scot-free. Therefore, Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, I must resign as your attorney.
No! Guys. Does this mean I'm under arrest? No!
There's just so much Scotch tape on it.
Well,
I have nothing to confess.
what?
I said I have nothing to confess, and I don't and I won't, especially not to a plebeian like you.
This guy doesn't know when to give up.
Besides, there's no truth to all these allegations. I mean, look at the suitcase. You won't find a single print of mine on it.
All that means is you wipe them off, taking care to only leave Mr. Rebels.
Well, as many a great politician has said before me, no comment.
All right.
In that case, try switching things up, Apollo. Look at the situation from a different angle. Is there really nothing that points to the suitcase being dropped from up above?
Evidence that points to the suitcase being dropped from the second floor. If the killer pushed the suitcase in the second floor hallway of the coffee bar,
They're gonna get somehow about Army's testimony here, I guess?
that would place him right around here. Maybe, just maybe.
Thought of something, Apollo?
I believe this piece of evidence to be connected to the dropping of the suitcase.
I mean, we haven't had a chance to use it yet.
Take that!
That appears to be a statement, but how is it related to this case?
On the night of the murder, Your Honor, Miss Army Buff physically left her room. That's when she saw the doctor burning the orb and subsequently passed out. Right above the coffee bar. But with her there in her wheelchair, the killer wouldn't have been able to drop the suitcase down onto the doctor. Oh, good point. However, according to Sarge, she woke up just as someone was trying to move her in her wheelchair. Someone was pushing my wheelchair! What? I was so scared I beat a hasty retreat, as fast as my wheels could take me. She must have been in the killer's way and had to be moved. Isn't that right, Mr. Atishon-Wimperson?
And if the killer had pushed the wheelchair with his bare hands, we may yet find the conclusive evidence we need.
Exactly! Fortunately for us, that evidence slipped right through the killer's fingers. If only he'd been able to hold onto it just a little tighter. But now, he's neither able to discard nor alter it.
Honestly, that piece of evidence wasn't even supposed to be here in this courtroom today. And yet, it looks like sometimes things do get better.
But this wasn't supposed to happen! No? Well, too bad, because the evidence that sped away from you that night has come back to haunt you, right here at this very trial.
Your Honor, the defense's final piece of evidence is on this person.
Take that!
That's on the night of the murder. Sarge passed out, only to come to and find that someone was pushing her wheelchair. That's when she fled back into her room. She didn't physically see a single soul after that. Not until Athena drew her out through the therapy session, that is. This is extremely long and fades away.
While the killer was able to wipe the prints on the suitcase off, the same can't be said for the prints that got away.
My fellow Khura'inians,
Well, Mr. Politician-Wimperson, try to explain your way out of this one. The podium is all yours!
politician, savior of Khura'In, I'm not a crook. My political career, it can't end like this. I'm destined for great things. Something's wrong. This isn't real. It's a dream. No, it's a nightmare.
What? Whoa, wait, really? Me? Whoa, no way! Banzai! 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 Banzai!
Breaking news, politician arrested on murder charges and stripped of his electoral win.
No, please! Wait! Don't go! No! No, please! Grandpa!
That was sick.
Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, are you alright? Bailiff, get him to the first aid station on the double. Well, this was yet another unexpected turn of events. In light of everything that's been revealed, seems the relic is indeed the Founder's Orb.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's not the crystal of Amy Faye.
And it seems Mr. Politician Wimperson can be considered a suspect in Dr. Buff's murder?
Apollo, I want to thank you for everything. Thanks to you, I didn't have to keep bending the truth. I'm glad to have you back, Phoenix. I'm going to pretend that all the weird bigoted stuff you said was completely didn't happen. I don't know what I would have done without you.
Don't mention it. You were amazing today, Apollo.
Well, I could have done it without Dirk. And I thought you were going to say Athena, but sure, them both.
A dragon never yields. Even when wounded, a dragon bites down hard and never lets go till its dying breath. It glares, it roars, and it latches its jaws firmly onto its prey until the bitter end. That's what lawyers do to get to the truth.
A dragon never yields. Every lawyer should take that to heart.
As it seems both sides have no further objections, would Dok's Almighty please take the stand?
Oh, because he's leader of the Defiant Dragons, and they're going to officially relinquish the orb to him, I suppose. I mean, it still came to harm. The phrasing on that is so weird. But even if he did, if that agreement were to say that the orb goes to Army instead, she would probably give it to him.
This court awards the orb to the Defiant Dragons per the stated transfer agreement.
Yay. Wahoo.
He's mighty pleased with himself. I do feel bad for Phoenix in all this, though. He was held hostage by the writers.
Should the Kingdom of Khura'In claim ownership, the matter may have to be deliberated in court all over again. I just hope, or shall I say pray, that I'm not the judge presiding over that one. Indeed, a trial like that might spark an international incident.
You know, can we stop talking about international incidents while you're a wanted criminal speaking in a court of law, please?
Still, there are bigger and more momentous things astir in the air.
The revolution. Dirk's really serious about this.
This court is adjourned.
Finally. May 17th, District Court, courtroom, defendant lobby number 3.
Nice work, son. We've finally broken through the last obstacle on the road to revolution.
Revolution.
Revolution?
Metal Gear. Psycho Mantis? It just doesn't seem real.
Yes. That was the judge's voice.
Yes, well, to think you actually defeated the Fighting Phoenix. All I can say is, that's my boy!
Mr. Wright did have his hands tied. Who knows if I'd have won if he'd been able to fight me head on. I see it more like you saved Mr. Wright. Saved him? Yeah, remember what he said? He didn't have to bend the truth anymore, and it was all thanks to you. I don't know about that. Still, I guess it is kind of nice to be appreciated. Eventually.
Mr. Turk? Now that the Holy Mother's face has been revealed, are you going to have a spirit medium try to channel her? I didn't say any of those words correctly. I, for one, would love to see the return of the legendary founder.
Yeah, just think about it. Being able to speak to someone right out of history books.
Unfortunately, it's not that easy.
What? Why?
A face isn't enough, you also need the true name of the one you're attempting to channel.
Which Maya knows. I suppose that could be a slightly more valid reason for why Maya is the only one who could be the key to this. Because in theory, she's one of the few who knows. We don't know if Queen Khura'In would know the name. Oh, well, no. We don't think so. Queen Khura'In and Belieb are... Sorry, Maya, Belieb, and Phoenix are the only 3 we know to know the name.
Unless, did Phoenix tell the whole courtroom? I don't think so, right? He, like, brought it up and everyone was like, ah! Like, looked away. So I think it's still those three are the only ones who know.
The face isn't enough. You also need the true name of the one you're attempting to channel.
Oh, right. Pearl mentioned something like that. I do have to wonder how the rules of that work with, like, legal name changes and stuff. What's your truest name? Just the one you believe is your name? What name would you have to use to channel the Phantom from Dual Destinies, I guess is my question. I guess it just wouldn't work.
And the founder's true name is only known to the priestess who's been crowned queen.
Well, and Maya and Phoenix and Belieb, anyway.
In short, the only living person who knows it is the current queen of Khura'In, Urga'id.
Oh, so without her help, we won't be seeing the Founder anytime soon?
That's no fun.
The Founder's form has appeared from within. It seems only the Queen knows the Founder's real name. Am I being stupid, or did they not... Or am I thinking of a different figure? Oh, sorry, no, it was Lady Kira's real name we learned from that case, that's right. So in fact, it is only Queen Khura'In who knows. Which means the argument we had about them needing Maya Fey is even less true. Unless Inga somehow got hold of the name. But you think Queen Khura'In wouldn't just tell him? So, Dirk, what will you do now?
First, I'll start by tracing the route by which the orb came into Dr. Boss' hands.
Since we now know it was a politician that asked the doctor to study it, isn't he the one who stole it?
No, a politician nobody like him couldn't get anywhere near the orb, let alone steal it. Must have had inside help. My money is on someone connected to the royal family.
Oh, right, you said something to that effect, yet back in the cave.
Whoever it may be, we need to expose their dirty scheme to the light of day.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Wright has plenty of information, courtesy of his dirty client. He might be able to shed some light on this. Yeah, shouldn't he be in, like, witness protection or something at this point? And we don't know that it was politician holding Maya Fey hostage. It could have been Inga doing it and politician just speaking on his behalf.
Private Justice?
Oh, sir. Private Justice, that was fine work you did at the trial today. You did your sergeant proud.
Back at you, Sarge. It took real courage to leave your room like that. It's all thanks to you and Corbin and Cykes. With my siege defense over, I can finally sally forth.
But the battle's only just begun. One for me and me alone to fight.
The school, you mean?
To lose your mother and then your father. What a terrible thing to endure.
Yeah, and being wheelchair bound doesn't help.
Private Justice? I've been thinking. It's about time I stood on my own 2 feet. After all, I no longer have Papa to coddle me. Huh?
I'm afraid I don't follow?
Take a good look, soldier. This is one small step for man, and one giant leap for me. Hold my drone for me, would you, Private Justice? Yes, sir.
What is she up to? Going to stand up, I assume. Or try.
Hello. She's standing?
What's this? Sarge, you mean your legs, they're...
The doctor told me I was ready to walk again months ago. But if I admitted I could walk, I knew I'd have to leave the house. So I faked it.
Maybe it's different in Japan or America, but I would think when you're 12, you don't yet have the autonomy to hide what your doctor says from your parents, do you? Usually they tell the parents. By the time you're like 18 and stuff, you can choose to not tell your parents about that sort of thing, but...
So I faked it.
It makes sense, but...
I kept pretending I couldn't walk. But I know if Papa's watching over me now, and I'd hate to disappoint him. So, from this day forth, I'm going to march forward on my own 2 feet.
What a brave kid trying to move forward like this. It must be so hard this soon after her father's death. I was just thinking the same thing. It's been like less than 24 hours.
Don't you ever stop. You just keep on walking, comrade. Stay brave, because there will be days when you'll want to stop. But I have faith you'll find a way to muster the strength to push through them.
Yeah, you can do it. Hey, Daddy's back!
Mr. Wright!
What's that look on his face for? Oh, Apollo! Is everything alright with Miss Faye? She's safe, for now.
Well then, we better go save her quick! Where is she anyway?
I'm afraid I have some bad news.
Huh?
Maya's not here in the States. She's still in Khura'In. And she's still being held hostage by the mastermind behind this whole thing.
The mastermind?
That's right. Atishon-Wimperson was nothing more than a pawn. Maya's true abductor is in the kingdom of Khura'In.
What? I don't understand, Mr. Wright. What in the world's going on over there?
Why would we assume it was Politician-Wimperson anyway? I don't understand that. He was obviously a pawn from the beginning. It was always his benefactor pulling the strings. Why would we ever have assumed he had Maya in the States? How could he have coerced her into getting on a plane to the States from here? But as shocking as that news was, it was only the beginning. The beginning of something big. Big enough to shake Khura'In to its very core. Revolution. Do you hear those words already? From Phoenix? I was being swept up in a mighty wave that nothing could stop. Of course, at the time, I had no idea what the days ahead had in store for us.
To be continued.
Well, I survived. I barely escaped with my life. Holy Mother of God! Holy Mother! In that case, in me did not get on, at all. Well, I shouldn't say at all. I did really, I adored the whole arc with Army, and the fact that her overcoming the fear of the arsonist's fire enough to give Apollo permission as the owner of the orb to burn it, to see through her father's wishes because that's what she would want for him, and to, get justice for her father's killer. I like that they gave what could otherwise have really been just a very much a plot point character. They gave her much more of an arc and agency in that. That was really cool. And the logic things... It's not that I actually really disliked all of the contradictions, it's just that the phrasing was always just a little weird. I didn't have eyes on the ground. To me, that means I wasn't looking at the ground, not I didn't have any way to look in. If we were looking for an escaped swan, and I said, I've got eyes on the swan, what am I telling you? I'm telling you I'm looking at the swan, right? If I said I've got eyes on the swan, you don't assume I'm saying, well, I've got a drone that could go look around for the swan. I'm telling you I am looking at the swan. So if I said I don't have eyes on the swan, I'm not saying I have no way to locate the swan. I'm saying I don't see it currently, right? That's not that unreasonable, right? to interpret that way. So if she says I didn't have eyes on the room, I assumed she just meant I didn't have the drone out, I couldn't see what was going on in there, but I was supposed to say, you had a drone, you could have seen! Which Apollo, of course, then says, you had a drone, so you must have seen something. And she didn't even bring the drone out there. She went out there herself. So that's also not true. It's just and then they're like, he was asleep at his desk, and what they meant was that he fell asleep sitting up like this, a few feet away from his desk, which is why he could have been behind the bookshelf, such that it would be impossible to see him from outside. And again, in the mood matrix, you see the emotions spark out of nowhere at I saw Mr. Rebel get kicked out. They go crazy high, to the max value. So obviously that's in reality when she actually saw whatever freaked her out. But we're supposed to wait until she says, I was in my room, then it goes down. And we're supposed to say, because you were thinking about finding your killer tomorrow, the day after you're talking about, that's when the emotion goes down. It's just it almost seems like maybe the localization on this one was a little more rushed or something. Because almost all of the issues were just weird little phrasing things. And the actual logic wasn't all that bad, I wouldn't have said. The only one where the actual logical twist I was supposed to come to, I didn't really care for, was that early on one where you're supposed to say his initials match the email and everyone puts their initials and birthday in their email, so obviously this is him. In fairness, I hadn't made the connection, and I understand that is a solve of some kind. That might be a way to put evidence toward a solution, but that feels like a situation to me where for them to have expected me to stake health on saying PAW are his initials and those letters are found in this email, and if this email belongs to him, then he does not believe it's the crystal of Amy Faye because it must be the Founder's Orb because he wouldn't have given it to him to make that many steps operating on some guesswork in one testimony. It feels inconsistent with the rest of the gameplay, where normally if they would ask you if that was what they wanted you to do, they would do something like you push on everything and it fades to black, comes back in, and Apollo says, it's no good, I can't find anything. And then Athena would say something like, but that police report we found has got to have something. Is there any information we have in the court record that pertains to the information that could relate in any way, even the barest way, to that police report, Apollo? And then it lets you pick the evidence. It feels like that was a time for something like that. Just to give me a little push that the information in the police report gives more context to information you have elsewhere in the evidence. Because, and it's another situation where I feel like this is another thing where the difficulty is really sporadic sometimes. Because I would consider that a very difficult solve, that they would ask you to use some guesswork to come to like a few different conclusions that eventually lead to a contradiction. But then sometimes Like right at the end there, they were like, once you've already solved that it was politician who was pushing Army's wheelchair, that you then have to say, well, his fingerprints were left on this person. It's like, who's not gonna get that right? Why are you even asking me? And I get sometimes they ask you an obvious question so that they get to give you an opportunity to give a stupid answer because it's really funny. In which case, you shouldn't be losing health for it. Again, I know that losing and dying in this game doesn't do anything, but if it's the only punitive system by which I'm graded on my performance, why would I actively jeopardize it just to hear a bit of funny dialogue? That could only mean that I wasn't invested in the story at all, right? And I didn't care what happened to the characters, and I was okay with getting a bad ending just to see some funny dialogue. Anyway. The moment of burning the Founder's Orb was exceedingly cool. I loved Army's whole arc. I thought that was a really fun character. To be clear, I think earlier I was all like, well, it's obvious that she was a girl because why else would they insist you call her sir all the time? I still thought it was funny. I'm not of the opinion that something has to be unpredictable to be amusing or entertaining or funny. But I think the thing that upset me the most about this case was just the way they wrote Phoenix to just be really weirdly cruel and bitter and vindictive to Apollo and his daughter and Athena, people he lives with and works with and who saved his life and he cares about and deeply cares about. It just felt like it went against everything I knew about the character so far. In just a really sad way. And it kind of plays into a thing. I think one of the hurdles I've been coming up against in this game is just that it's just so miserable, the mood of it. Not to say that it's in the sense of poorly done, necessarily. I think for the most part, it's still quite competently written and everything. But it's just so relentlessly bleak and fucking sad. Tragedy and comedy have always been balanced pretty closely in this series, but holy shit, every other sentence is like a death threat or sentencing someone to hell or a gruesome attack on someone's traumatic events or it's just so fucking sad. Whereas comparing it to something like Ace Attorney 2, I mean that game is dark and quite miserable at times, but I never felt so stuck in where every time something funny happened I was like, ha, and that was what was keeping me above the dark waters of despair. It is in this game. I feel like I'm drowning in a cave. Anyway, it has very much the feel that the next case will be our final. So, I'm sorry that all 3 episodes of the trial for this case were just so blitheringly angry the whole time, and I'm sorry for apologizing so much. Apologizing? I'm sorry. Next video on the channel is going to be some more Hat in Time mod levels, which ought to be a good time. We'll tackle the challenge road, and if there's time, we'll do something that isn't the challenge road. And next time here, we'll be beginning the next case, which I am imagining will be the final one. So, things have got to get crazy. Real crazy then. Hang on tight, Maya, we're coming! Thank you so very much for coming around. Hopefully I'll see you around. Admiral's gonna be out of here now. Peace! Super effective. You're very sad now. Oh my. Anyway, take that, Earth. I'll stab you right in the core. I destroyed Earth. Mission complete. Oh, goody. And there's just... Oh, there we go. Finally, a steam achievement. Goodbye, world.